So my parents immigrated here from Korea back in the 80s, and I pretty much grew up sheltered. Throughout my childhood, I pretty much hung out with Asian people. So it was the first day of kindergarten, and I remember this vividly. I was pretty much sitting in my row, waiting to be sent to class, and I remember these three kids 2 rows away from me making fun of me because I was Asian. I just remember feeling really uncomfortable and hurt when those kids were just making fun of me for what I looked like, something I could never change. So looking back at it now, it was pretty much the beginning of my depression. I remember going through elementary school and we had a parent-teacher conference, and I just remember my mom walking out of the classroom crying because the teacher told her that I would never amount to anything just because I was slugging behind English and just like other academic skills. Those 2 events pretty much contributed to my depression, and in 5th grade, I remember one night I tried to kill myself. So in high school, my depression got much better, but at the same time, there would be moments, probably like at least once a month, where I would just get hounded by depressive thoughts, and it would just be putting so much strain on me that I sometimes would just think about suicide a lot. I always thought to fulfill my satisfaction, I always felt like I needed to be accepted or just like feel loved or just like be a part of something or have a purpose in life, but sometimes I just didn't felt that. I remember showing up to college thinking like, I'm gonna be this new person that I wasn't. I would start drinking and partying just because I felt like I would be accepted if I started doing that. During the school week, I would just be anxious saying like, I just want to get this like week over so I can just start drinking and partying. It would satisfy me, but the next day I just feel completely unsatisfied and back to stage 1. So I remember meeting this really tall guy in my fraternity, and I always thought this dude would be like living up the life every weekend too, but I never knew that he actually went to church. I strictly remember him asking me like, hey, you want to hang out with me, and is it right if I show you this Bible verse? And I just remember like, I'm in a fraternity and there's a guy with a Bible? Like, what is this? I remember Thomas invited me to church, and the night before church, I went out partying with my friends, and I really remember when Thomas just popped into the fraternity room just like, hey, you coming to church today? But in the back of my mind, I was like, I do remember like promising to go to church with him, so I went to church hungover that day. I remember walking into high school, I was like, oh, this is very weird. Like, this is like literally my first church experience ever. And just like, these people were like smiling and like so happy and welcoming. I was like, so this is what church is like. But I just remember sitting in the pews and just like listening to the worship band. I was like, wow, that's really good. That week I was going through a slump, and I just remember Pastor Eddie's sermon about just purpose in life. Like pointing out in the crowd, like God gave you a purpose and you are loved by Him. I hardened my heart a lot due to my depression and being bullied. I just hardened my heart so I would never feel pain again. And after that service, I just remember like feeling all this emotion rushing back into my heart. Thomas would meet with me every week and just be sharing me all these like verses from the Bible. I started getting it, but at the same time I was like still a little skeptical. I remember it was a Saturday night and everyone else in my fraternity was going out and partying. I just remember being in a super low slump that night and just didn't want to deal with anyone. So I remember just locking myself in a room and just like contemplating if I wanted to drive home and kill myself. A week prior, Thomas took me to go buy a Bible, and I just remember for some reason I've opened it up and there's a passage about anxiousness, and I remember seeing in Matthew 6:34 it said, therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. It just told me to like take all my anxiety and depression and just like worries and just like take it off to God. It was at that moment where I accepted Christ and just like started my relationship with God. Thomas took me to our campus ministry, Stumo, and during Stumo nights, they were talking about Kaleo, which was like a discipleship program. That whole summer, I just learned how to learn about God and grow my relationship with God. Prior to accepting Christ, I was unemotional, very pessimistic, and always thought of negatives. But ever since I accepted Christ, I just feel God's joy and love. I always view things in a happier sense now. I feel like a purpose of sharing God's love with other people as well. Like when I see someone that's maybe going through something, I just want to help them through Christ's power. Because it's not me that's helping it, but it's God. Because Jesus died for our sins and rose again, it gave me hope that everything is going to be fine in the long run.